From garage sales to thrift store aisles, we hunt for treasures, stacking them in piles. Hustling hard, making deals all day, flipping finds, turning profit our way. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game. Pure Hustle Podcast guides our quest, learning tricks to be the best. On eBay we make our name, reselling dreams, winning the game.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're here for our new Tuesday live minisodes.
Yeah, we'll just call them minisodes and not put a date on them, because that kind of ties us down. It marries us to the calendar. And as resellers, man, we are free spirits. We're not ready to be tied down like that. So, man, thank you for everybody who's here, who's joined us today. So far in the chat, we got Patrick Kyohi there. We got Secondhand Solo. Welcome, guys. Many others watching. So today, Orlando, I threw you kind of a curveball. So I decided let's do something a little bit different. We've kind of played around with AI a little bit at the beginning of the AI boom on the podcast. Remember we did the AI like Seinfeld, where it was like have Seinfeld or tell these like jokes or whatever in a Seinfeld style, and then we had like it come up with a reselling rap. Like we did a lot of fun stuff with AI, and we've talked extensively about the use of AI when it comes to like listings. Is it good? Is it helpful? Does it maybe boost you in the algorithm because they want you to use it? How is AI going to impact reselling? And we've played with that a little bit. But I think the reality is most people are still kind of using AI almost like a search engine. And I think there's a lot of uses for that. And so a lot of people, hey, how do I make whatever French toast casserole? And they use AI to kind of come up with some recipes and things. And so I figured there's probably a lot of resellers or people who are considering reselling who haven't spent the time to watch 433 episodes of Pure Hustle Podcast and go on to all of the other channels of resellers. And they're just going to go on to AI and say, how do I become an eBay reseller? And so I kind of pulled up just a simple prompt, like give me a guide to how to resell on eBay. What kind of brands should I be looking for? Those are going to be questions people are going to ask. And so I kind of put together a little presentation of what AI said, and I wanted me and you to go through it and say, hey, is this good advice? Is AI on track here? Could somebody learn how to be a reseller through AI? And are they giving us good brands? Like maybe there's some bolos in this list that either we didn't know about or haven't thought about for a while. So you ready for that, Orlando?
I am. Hey, I'm always game for that. Hey, thank you too for Rhythm J and at the show vids. Thanks for joining us here. Rhythm J says, watching the live while I do Uber DoorDash deliveries, currently out of town, unable to work on my listings. So I hope you are listening to it's good. I you know what, I watch stuff all the time, as long as you know what's going on. And hey, love the hustle there. You got to do what you got to do.
That's right.
So nice work. Hey, you got Keystone Crypt also saying doing some listing. So yeah, I appreciate everybody hustling while we do this live. All right, Mike, let's talk about some of this info.
All right. So first thing we've got here is just the first little bit that it gave me. Like, what does it take to be an eBay seller? So this is the eBay Seller's Guide to Sourcing from Garage Sales and Thrift Stores. So the general advice that it gave, and I felt like this stuff was a little bit generic here. So we've got eye for detail. Develop an eye for detail. Look for tags, logos, or unique design elements on items. Now, how helpful do you think that is, Orlando?
No,
If you're just a brand new reseller and this is the advice you get.
No, detail. No, it's use your phone That's what I would say. I would say look for things that are trendy. I would say look for things that maybe you've been watching some YouTube people have talked about. Look for stuff that looks valuable, but I don't know. I don't know. Hey, you know what? Can
It's
we
just
do this, Mike? Well, I'll do it. I'll put it on my AI. We won't put it on screen. Let's see if AI can pass the Disney Black Diamond test.
nice. So here, yeah, I think that's a little bit generic, but in some ways it is good advice, right? Develop an eye for detail. So it doesn't help tell you how to do that, but the longer you've been reselling, like there's a lot of brands I don't know, but if I'm flipping through some clothes and I feel some good material, or if you're looking at something and you recognize something unique, like, hey, I've sold a lot of, shoes, but this design or this specific, I've never seen a Nike like this before. So those things are something you do need to develop, but this doesn't really help you with how to do that. Now it does move into something a little more practical. It says market knowledge, use tools like Terapeak, eBay sold listings to understand current demand and price points. I mean, that's spot on, right? Like we've been saying that from the beginning, right? Like you've got to use those eBay sold listings. That's like step number one. Don't look at what things are selling for. Look what they've sold for. Use Terapeak. So I'm impressed that AI knew to look for those. That was pretty good. And then of course the next one here, just condition check.
That's good. Especially coming in.
What's that?
It's really good, especially with the update that's coming in. Where February 5th, I believe. It's when eBay, if you sell clothing, using used clothing, you're gonna have the conditions, right? They're like excellent. You're gonna have good, very good, acceptable, whatever it is. And my recommendation is what AI recommends. Like, unless it's vintage, unless you can get good money for it, you better make sure that the items that you pick up fit within those values, right? And one way to ensure that is that you're looking for newer tags like new or excellent. And another tip, I would say make sure that those conditions are set right away, because I think what's going to happen is like it's going to automatically default you somewhere, and I think it may default you to the lowest common value. And so if it does that and you have a lot of items that are good or excellent and so on, like when people use the little boxes on the side to look for items, they're not going to see your item, right? So get ahead of the crowd, and make sure you have that set up in a way that you might be able to pick up some good sales, right, while everybody's still trying to figure out that system. But yeah, I agree on the condition check, especially when it comes to clothing these days.
Yeah. Because we've never accidentally bought, something and got it home and realized, oop, there's a stain on it or there's missing a button. That's never happened to us, right? But yeah, you need to check for those conditions for sure. All right, so let's get a little bit more practical here. The next one tells us, I kind of looked at like what specifically should people be looking for. So it broke it down into a lot of categories. I did not take the time to do plug in all of them. I just picked a few just to kind of spot check this. So one of them, it says for electronics, it mentions smartphones. And specifically, it gives us some specific models to look for. So it tells us look for iPhone 6 through 12, look for Samsung Galaxy 7, 8, and above. Now, I think this isn't the most helpful for people because if you're not familiar with reselling, if you're not familiar with phones, I would stay out of phones because there's a whole lot involved. Like, are these locked? Are they unlocked? Can you wipe them? Are they refurbished? So there's a lot to look at there. But I was interested that it gave such a low number with iPhone 6. So I actually pulled up some sold comps of the iPhone 6 there. And also there was one right below it of an iPhone 8. And you can see that there's a pretty big difference. Like $35 was about the top that iPhone 6s were going for. And those were like already marked as being unlocked, being available for all these carriers. So unless you really know what you're doing or can buy them in bulk, I would probably stay away from older model phones. But again, I know we have people probably in our listener base that they sell old iPads and phones because they're able to buy them and a bunch of them. They get a bunch on Craigslist. So if you know what you're doing, this might be a decent market to be in. But I think it's very, very dangerous to go as a new reseller.
Can we cancel AI on this one?
What and say it was bad advice? Yeah, no, absolutely.
Bad advice.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the reasons we're doing this, right? And same thing here. We got the Galaxy S8. I mean, here's one. These ones, the S8s and above, look like they sell for a little bit more. Here's $61 for one that seemed to be in good condition. And then I saw a whole bunch of the S8s that were selling for a lot lower, but they all had the read description. This phone is broken or won't turn on. And people were still buying them for around $20. So it looks like they're a little bit more right with the Samsung S8 and above, but iPhone 6, I don't know. I think that might be bad advice.
I don't have a good feeling about this, which I'm kind of shocked. So I did do the Disney Black Diamond VHS. Are they valuable to sell on eBay? And basically, I got, while some sellers list these tapes on platforms like eBay for thousands of dollars, such high prices are rarely achieved in actual sales. So that is true, right? In modest amounts, often between $5 and $25, depending on the factors like rarity, condition, and whether they're still sealed. So, hey, AI got that one right.
Yeah.
So don't go out there like you don't know. There's various reasons why something sold at 20,000. One is because it didn't. Somebody just bid that and they never paid. Some of it might be money laundering, and some of it may be they are selling that, but they're selling other things than that is
Right.
worth that amount, right? And that's how they're transactionally covering it. And so AI said, in summary, while Disney Black Diamond VHS tapes hold nostalgic value, their financial worth is generally modest, with only a few exceptions commanding higher prices. I would say not even modest. Like, yeah, there are some, like the Cars one. I think that that was part of the Disney home movies that they shipped out to. The whole you buy one for 99 cents, whatever, and then you get a deal of all these other ones. But there aren't very many. So, anyways, continue on. I just thought I would address this because somebody in the chat, somebody had asked us.
All right. So continuing on with the electronics category, and we won't spend forever on all of these, but this actually, I appreciated that it gave model numbers for things. So, I think we all know Walkmans can be very valuable. Game Boys can be valuable, certain film cameras, but it didn't just say like, hey, buy old Walkmans or cameras. Like it gave specific models. So I looked up this TPS L2. Just to kind of see like, okay, what are these going for? And look here, right? So here is, I don't know if you've sold one of these before, Orlando.
I have picked up one of those before. Yeah, I have.
Okay, so now if you're a seasoned reseller, okay, like older Walkmans are probably going to do well, but you might not be familiar with specific brands. So now this is where AI potentially could be helpful. Obviously, it's not going to necessarily be more helpful than just doing an eBay search of solds of Walkman and then kind of just sorting based off of the sale prices and figuring out different models. So if you're willing to put in a little bit more research, but the fact that it gave me, 2 different models of Walkmans to look for, it also gave for this camera. How we see film cameras all the time at garage sales and thrift stores, but here by knowing to look for the Canon AE1, right? Like just looking that, look here, there's some for 145, 164, and where most film cameras are going to be worthless, by using this tool here and saying like, hey, I should be looking for the Canon AE1 or the Nikon FM2, you might be able to potentially get some bolos or some specifics without necessarily having to do all of the research up front, right? Like you can kind of get some ideas off of AI and then use that as your starting point for more research.
Agreed. And I'm just interested in the next things now. This is important stuff, right? Like if you can, there's various ways, right? You can research what you should pick up, right? You can spend hours watching YouTube. You can listen to podcasts like ours every Wednesday, or you can go on, AI and go, hey, what are some valuable items in this category, in this condition that I can pick up that sells well on eBay, right? But you have to remember, it doesn't have full access to all the all the eBay comps.
I think if you could build like an eBay or a scrubber that can like scrub eBay consistently, almost like how like Terapeak does, and then just feed that information into AI, man, that would be, I mean, I know people have bots for stuff like that, but I think that's where the gold mine would come from. All right. So our next one, again, I don't have any comps for this, but I think this has some good advice. Again, it says Levi jeans 501s from the 80s or 90s with the red tab, especially if unworn. Okay. Vintage Carhartt workwear. These are all brands that we would definitely be looking for. Now, Supreme box logo tees, that might be a harder find. Off-White, and then combo with Nike. I think you've talked a little bit about Off-White stuff, right, Orlando?
Yeah. It's just more streetwear stuff, but yeah.
So I mean, again, so just some decent brands to maybe look for. You could probably ask AI
but they're
to be a
spot
little
on.
bit more specific. Yeah, like you could say like, give me a list of all popular vintage clothing, jeans, and t-shirts or whatever that sell on eBay, and then you'll at least get a list of brand names that you may not be familiar with. And then again, that could be a jump off point for you of, okay, within this now I'm looking for these brands. I might not have known them before. So now I'm going to become more familiar with them and do more research. So I wouldn't say this is like your end all be all, but it is a good start. Someone asked, is this ChatGPT? I do use ChatGPT a lot. For this one, I think I used Grok just because I wanted to try a different one to see if I got different level of response. But they're both about the same. What I liked about the Grok one is it included all of the sources it came from. So it showed all of the different, and I think Perplexity does the same thing. So you can get like, it'll actually link you to other websites or link you to articles or link you to like a YouTube video where someone was talking about these. Whereas ChatGPT typically doesn't provide the sources on those. All right, our next one here. This is a field that we've done a little bit of selling in, but we're looking at some home goods, so kitchenware and small appliances. I think these are all pretty good. Pyrex, we've talked about various Pyrex. I talked a lot about. I think
That's
it was
some good
the
info there. If you're
yeah.
brand new, you're like you wouldn't have known about this.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
it looks here, it's like the turquoise color. You're looking for Cinderella bowls. I've talked about some of the, I think they're like the Amish prints on them can be worthwhile. Again, cast iron, it tells you look for Griswold, look for Wagner with clear markings, no rust. So again, if you didn't know much about cast iron skillets, you're probably not going to make a lot of money off of your traditional like lodge ones, but Griswold, you definitely will. So again, it's just giving you some specific brands. I looked up the Cinderella bowls. I didn't sort by like the highest price. I just pulled, these were the most recent ones that had sold when I made this. And so these ones all have Cinderella in the listing here. And you can see, it's not bad for like a bowl. But again, some of them, if they have the right printings, they were going for well over 100 on those. And then it also mentioned KitchenAid. I think we all kind of know KitchenAid, but one of the things I wanted to bring up with this is it gave a specific model of KitchenAid. And when I was looking at the model, it had a ton of the parts for this model of KitchenAid, whether it's components like the springs inside and bolts, or the attachments like this, like the whisks and the dough kneader and all of that. You could, if you're at a garage sale or a thrift store, even if you're just picking up these things, you can definitely be profitable in these as well.
Yeah, and I think I'm watching this, and before we move on, just want to shout out new people in the chat. Big Dre, what's going on? Ingo with Deals, how are you? Jazz Cyril, yeah, hi. Oh, that's Jazz from Two Aussie Thrifters. It's been a long time. I think didn't we lose to you guys in like with I can't remember Treasure, whatever. We had this contest, and I think they beat us.
Yeah, they beat us with the coolest finds, that's for sure.
Yeah,
they had some really cool gaming equipment, I think, that they had picked up, and that just sealed the deal.
They did.
All right, just a couple more slides here. So this
Okay.
one is a sourcing strategy. So again, we kind of tapped in to see like, okay, it can give you some pretty good brands. And I think I like these because it's a lot of the talking points we do on Pure Hustle podcast, not in as much detail, and the stories and the actual anecdotes, which I think is where most of the value comes from. But some of these are really good, like focusing on higher end neighborhoods when you're going to garage sales. We've talked about that. Of course, there's caveats, like some people, they have all their money in their home, and so they may not actually have nicer things. But things like be early, negotiate, build relationships, regularly visit the same places. I think that's all solid advice if you're a new reseller. So basics, but definitely solid advice. What do you think, Orlando?
I think it's good. There's some other things that are kind of missing in there. I would say make sure you do your research the night before. Make sure you have your route planned out based on where you're gonna go. What do you want to do it by, like what you're trying to source, or do you want to do it based on how much gas you want to save? It's not going to be perfect, but I thought it would at least have something like that. Because the hard thing is, right, when you go sourcing, sometimes like if you just go like I'm just going to go to the store, like it's very tough. It's very tough to come out with something. But if you're consistently going, or if you kind of know what's going on, like you're able to score more. But no, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Well, and the other thing too is that people understand how to use AI. This gave me, like I said, I only took bits and pieces out of the guide that it gave me. But for any of these, and if you're using AI for anything like this, you can always say like, please provide more information, go deeper into sourcing strategy, and then it'll provide you paragraphs worth. And then you could say like, provide more information on sourcing strategy, and then it'll give you more. So you can always push for more, but just for like a basic, yeah, it's not bad. And then our last one here is some tips for after you've acquired the stuff. So clean and repair. So it just says like small fixes or cleaning can increase value significantly, which is true. You know, we don't spend at Pure Hustle Podcast a ton of time like refurbishing items, but some resellers do, and they're able to make quite a bit more money for doing that. Or just, you know, simple cleans, like, you know, we don't necessarily wash all of the shoes before we sell them, but if it's a high value item, getting a smudge off can be useful. Listing, we've talked a lot about using high quality photos, multiple angles, detailed descriptions, accurate conditions. Like this is all like Pure Hustle Podcast Bible almost, right? Like us saying like, these are all things you need to do. And then, yeah, pricing. I love this because this just shows that AI is considering the real aspect of what you do when you resell. And it says price based off of sold listings, but factor in your costs and eBay fees. So it's definitely understanding that you need to base it off of what things have actually sold for and not what a lot of people think, which is, well, this is selling for $300 on eBay. Yeah, but it's never sold for that. It actually sells for 20.
Now, I know this was a shorter episode because it's our live minisode, so we're going to have to bring it to a close. But I want to strongly encourage people to experiment with AI as far as like sourcing, right? You always got to trust but verify, but it's another shortcut. I don't see a lot of people in the reselling space talking about it, but as far as like how it applies to us resellers. But even, you know, the other day I had somebody that was, they had a question about comps, right? And like, how much do you think this can go for? And I did some research on Terapeak and kind of my own knowledge. And I kind of was like, I don't know. So I went on over to ChatGPT. I'm like, hey, here's what I know about this item. What can you find out for me about what this is worth? And so it gave me a bunch of stuff. It was like, hey, make sure you look at the stamp that's on there. Is it pre this year or is it after this year? Take a look at, you know, what is the provenance on this and provenance and all this. And it just gave me a whole ton of information. And even in this video, right? If I was a brand new reseller, right, and I wanted to know what, I don't know, kitchen appliances to sell, like I could find a YouTube, but I would end up spending, you know, 20-30 minutes listening to that YouTube. Or I can just go to AI and go, hey, give me 5 or 6 items. I could look up comps real quick and go, you know what, I need to pick these up. I need to be aware, right? But there's also the other side that, you know, the reason why our podcast exists, the reason why there's YouTubers out there talking about reselling is that there's still a lot of like the human aspect of reselling that AI has not picked up on yet. You know, how to negotiate. Now, it'll give you negotiation tips. Actually, it will do that. But just, you know, what are some other things to look for that AI may not know? Because AI is only going to put out what you put in, right? So if you don't have the right prompt, you don't ask it the right questions, you're only going to get that limited amount of knowledge. So, hey, check it out, whether it be ChatGPT, be Claude, Grok, Perplexity, whatever it is. Great tools out there. Any more to add, Mike?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Hey, with that being said, make sure to be real,
Be relevant,
and be reselling late.
Peace.